Alrighty, welcome back, everybody. The next episode I got for Christmas is a little movie called Gremlins. Gremlins is one of those hybrid movies where it's kind of like it's not a scary movie. We were gonna actually put it on the horror Halloween list, but I figured it wasn't necessarily. It could have definitely fallen that, but I wanted to save it for Christmas because it's kind of a Christmas movie with like I guess you could say Halloween horror themes. I wouldn't even say horror, but kind of more like a creature feature. If you haven't seen Gremlins, it could be a little too scary for little kids. Maybe like kids, maybe 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there. But the premise of Gremlins is this father finds a Christmas gift for his son, and he gets him this it's called a gremlin, and the name is Gizmo, and so there's a lot of rules with Gizmo. Like you can't. Actually, Gizmo, he's a Mogwai, I think, and then like the Gremlins are the bad ones, if I'm correct. But anyway, so in the movie Gremlins, there's a lot of rules that kind of go with having a gremlin. Like you can't feed it after midnight, you can't get water on it, and just those are actually the main rules of it. You gotta maintain the gremlin, but it's really weird on the midnight thing. There's been some other like discussions or debates about like, well, what about daylight savings times, or are we talking about East Coast, Pacific time? What time are we talking about here? So I don't know. For the sake of enjoying the movie, just figure midnight in the movie. So whenever it was midnight in the movie, don't feed them after midnight. I don't know why that was a rule. That's a very interesting rule. Maybe someone can look it up why. But just don't eat them or don't feed them after midnight. And so we'll get to that later. But the other thing is don't get them wet. Don't get the gremlins wet, because then they start multiplying. So it's like when they're mogwais, when they're kind of cute, kind of like furry, I guess you could say like teddy bear kind of gremlins. If you get water on them, they start to multiply and more mogwais come out. So then that's what happens. So then if you feed them after midnight, then they kind of start to kind of transform into these really creepy looking like reptile type gremlins. And so then, but then if you get them wet, then they kind of die. So it's a really weird, interesting situation. But anyways, Gremlins takes place in it's almost like a Christmas town. It's very snowy, it's very Christmassy, it's very kind of like cold, and so there's a lot of things going on in the movie. It's very kind of slapstick and campy, which makes it really fun. But there's like a lot of Christmas stuff going around, like Christmas carolers. I'll never forget. Like I will never forget the whenever even to this day, whenever I hear the song, "Do You Hear What I Hear?" I always think of that scene in Gremlins where like the mom has like the kitchen knife. It's just like the kitchen knife or the like the electric knife cutter or whatever. And there's a gremlin in there, and it's like super creepy. And who could forget the scene with the lady on it's like the stairs where it's like she's older, so she can't walk up the stairs, so she has like that little chair that kind of takes her up the stairs, and then it like malfunctions and she flies out the window. It's hilarious. I don't know. Now it's hilarious. I think when I was a kid, I was kind of freaked out. But Gremlins is definitely a fun movie to watch during Christmas time. It definitely has aspects of kind of, I guess you could say terror, kind of scary would be the best word. Some scary elements to it. So it might be a little risky if you have little kids. So it's definitely not for like little kids to watch during Christmas time. But that's your call. But it's definitely one that you should definitely check out, because it'll get you in the Christmas spirit if you want to even have a good scare. So definitely check out Gremlins this year. The TV episode that we're going to talk about now is we're going to keep with the scary theme here. And it's from a movie called Tales from the Crypt. This is another movie we could review during our Halloween episode, but I figured I'd save it for Christmas. Kind of going with the theme of a little scary Christmas here. Tales from the Crypt is a show. It was on HBO in the 90s, and it was about the guy's name, the Crypt Keeper, and he had like a book of scary stories, and all the stories were they were either thrilling or scary or even comedic. And so this is actually the first episode of Tales from the Crypt from the HBO series, and it's a very awesome episode. It starts off with a lady who kills her husband. That's how it starts off. So she kills her husband, and can't remember if there's like an inheritance that she wants, or she's just over her husband, or she's cheating on him, or who knows what. But she ends up killing her husband. And so, like, in the background, you hear on the radio that there's like an escaped like lunatic from a mental hospital. Total cliche and everything, but she doesn't even pay attention to it. So she tries to get her husband. She kills him with like, I think, a pitchfork from like the fireplace or who knows what. So then after that, she has like a well right outside her house. It's snowing. She opens the door to get the husband out, but then the daughter wakes up, and the mom goes and puts her back to sleep. She walks back down. The door's still open, and she goes to dispose of the body in the well. And as she goes out there, the husband's still alive, and so he like attacks her, but then he ends up like kind of dying. It's kind of like his last gasp. So she disposes of him, or not entirely. She kind of like is a little beat and kind of like winded, so she goes back into the house. And as she goes back into the house, the lunatic that's dressed as a Santa Claus is trying to kill her now. So now it's like a serial killer kind of like we talked about, like the Jason Halloween kind of guy trying to get her. And so she's there, and she's the guy's trying to get her, and so she calls the cops. But there's one problem: the husband that she just killed is still outside. The body hasn't been dumped yet, so she opts not to call the cops, and then tries to get away from this killer Santa Claus. I'm not gonna give away the payoff or anything, but it's such an awesome episode, especially if you like kind of scary things or Halloween themes with a Christmas sprinkle on it. This is definitely one to check out. So definitely, this episode is not for kids. It's not for everybody, but it's a definitely scary Halloween type Christmas episode for Christmas time. If our Halloween listeners are listening and want to kind of check something like that out. So anyways, it's from Tales from the Crypt. It's all through the house. It's the very first episode of the Tales from the Crypt series. Definitely check it out this Christmas or even during Halloween time.